But this week might be a good time to talk about day in the life of a procurement specialist during the work week. Not like today. Today's Sunday. Why am I even talking about work? Hello and welcome. I'm Katherine, your procurement guide. I've been a little absent for a bit, busy with a lot of different things, pulling me in a lot of different directions. And funnily enough, I thought I'd look up what does a day in the life of a procurement specialist looks like, because it would be something that people new to the profession or people looking at a new position would want to know. And actually, as a little tip, I recommend when you interview for a position, ask them, what would a typical day look like in this position? So, funnily enough, I had run across something that I wrote as a bit of a joke in the early 2000s about a day in the life. And I posted it on my Patreon, and I'm going to show you that. It is a bit of a joke because, I changed the coffee from regular to decaf to see if anybody would notice was one of the things. And I actually did that. It was just something fun for an internet post, but actually some of the things still happen. So, procurement specialist for the BC government. So it starts at 8 o'clock, where I rode my bike into work. Start at 8:20 at my desk. See the messages light blinking on our phones because we had that back then. Turn on my computer. In 2007, it took 5 minutes for the computer warm up. Check the voicemail, and writing down handwritten notes. Like, okay, I still do handwritten notes. I still check voicemail. My computer doesn't necessarily take 5 minutes to boot up. Um, it's 6 messages. Again, it depends on how much you checked it the night before. I'm finding now the next morning when I check my email, it's mostly spam. There's not anything really relevant coming overnight into my mailbox. Develop a task list, which, yes, I do a morning review now. And then I look at BC Bid. When the routine part is over, it is a huge combination depending on the interruptions and the flow, writing the documents, what's critical, responding to requests, changing the coffee from regular to decaf to see if anybody would notice, last minute meeting requests to fix something, clearing, ad hoc advice, drafting briefing notes, uh, calls for legal or governance on unique situations, risk management. So a lot of these things change on a day-to-day basis. You won't typically find one day is the same as the next. Anyways, when I took a look at what was available online, um, some of it's okay, um, but not everything is accurate, entirely accurate. Uh, when I did this in Google, a day in the life of a procurement specialist, the AI overview gave me it's a mix, including researching and comparing suppliers, communicating with vendors, negotiating contracts, and ensuring timely delivery of goods and services. They also manage purchase requests, monitor inventory levels, and handle various administrative tasks. It's not necessarily a specialist position. It's kind of a mix there of coordinator, expediter, purchaser, and procurement specialist. There is a hierarchy of the levels of what of the different titles, and sometimes those titles get mixed up. And so a specialist really does the strategic things. A buyer or purchaser does the tactical side of things. But let's look a little more of what Google's AI said we do in a day. It even broke it out to morning, afternoon, end of day. Okay, so generally, I'll tell you right now, our days never look the same. You can try and set a routine, you can try and block time for certain activities, but each day is different, which is part of the reason why we love what we do. Anyways, morning. The activities it says is reviewing purchase requests, sourcing and comparing suppliers, negotiating contracts, communication with suppliers. And then in the afternoon is creating the purchase orders, monitoring inventory, following up on orders, analyzing data, end of day administrative tasks, reporting, communication with internal stakeholders. That's again a mix of tactical and strategic. And generally, a procurement specialist does not create the purchase orders. And only if you're an inventory buyer, again, not a specialist, a buyer, would you be monitoring inventory. Um, and end of day communication with internal stakeholders. I wish you are constantly talking with your internal stakeholders. If you don't block time to work on drafting documents, you will be inundated with emails, Teams messages, somebody at your door, phone calls. So these are a mix, but definitely don't trust what Google and AI tell you is what a typical day looks like. I have another one that I asked a couple of AI, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, and kind of created a mix and then threw in some of the things that I do. So, uh, what the combination with my input came up with was first morning planning and email review. That's true. That's how I typically start my day is I take a look at the emails and my calendar and kind of plot out my day. I look at my calendar for the number of meetings and what space I may have for high energy work that needs high concentration. The emails typically in the beginning of the day are all junk emails, usually spam emails. Very few are from my end users. I also, when I used to work for Shared Services BC, I would check the BC Bid website for new postings because generally they went out on an overnight run. And I would just take a look at what are people posting and just randomly took a look at RFPs that were out there for what are people asking for? How are they mapping their requirements? And when I worked for the shared services, it was also a marketing activity because I would take a look at some of those RFPs written by end users, see the flaws and the risks, and then reach out with a little bit of free advice for fixing a potential risk that I saw in their solicitation process. And generally, like it would turn into a conversation, and then they would ask for more advice. And generally, future requests would be for helping them out. Next, the AI put supplier relationship management. This negotiating your terms and addressing some issues, vendor performance evaluations. Again, I would put this to where your energy lies. And I'm going to give some future tips and videos on how to manage your day. This is just the way AI and Google in a typical day might look like, or what you should ask about. But in future, I'll talk about in other videos about how to structure your days to how you and your energy works. So, supplier relationship management. If it's something simple, doesn't take a lot of effort, I may get it off my plate quickly, or I may leave it till the afternoon when I hit that low mid afternoon dip. If it is something really highly strategic, yes, it would definitely be something in the morning, and I would block some time for it. Third, it had strategic sourcing activities. Again, um, that depends on the energy level and mental bandwidth required for this activity. Researching market conditions, developing the RFX, ensuring the opportunities meet requirements for posting on the electronic tendering sites, The next one is cross-departmental collaboration. So you coordinate to define your requirements, work with legal advisors, consult with finance teams, and this would be part of your process of your RFX. Also would be for getting ideas of upcoming procurements. So I worked for a place that they booked 15-minute meetings all on a Monday to have that cross collaboration on each project. It really broke up the day so that Monday was really difficult to do any sort of focus work because there were so many tiny little meetings interrupting your day. So, if at all possible, either you turn a day like that into a meeting day or you spread those out so that you get those focus blocks. Because I really find when you have those collaboration meetings, it would be good to jump into a focus block right away to get those ideas out of your brain and into a document. Next one, data analysis and reporting. Generating reports as required for various entities. Like if you're in public sector, sometimes you have to report up to the secretariat, the trade secretariat, Ministry of Finance, those types of things. Track and analyze your spending patterns to identify some opportunities for consolidating some purchases or establishing a different type of contract. Prepare briefings on performance metrics. That tends to be done at a month end or beginning of the next month, not on a daily basis, although doing a little bit every week might actually make your reporting easier at the end of the month. Personally, I find Fridays are a really good day for admin work like that because it tends to be less meeting heavy. Now, in public sector, it tends to also be when a lot of staff take the day off. Next thing is contract management. This depends on how things are structured. If you are actually responsible for the contract side or if it's split off to another department. Generally, contract management is with the end user who is doing the day to day. However, procurement provides advice for any problems that they may be encountering with their vendors or checking upcoming expiries so that you can advise them, okay, we have an expiry coming up and advising if there's an option to extend or if we need to go back out for another competition with plenty of time for that planning. Also, verifying compliance, such as WorkSafe certifications, insurance certifications, or whatever other certifications you've asked for in that contract when and you've tracked those expiry dates to request the updated information if the vendors don't proactively send that information. Another piece is working with finance to track the spending and ensure in advance that you're not overspending the contract value. The vendor is responsible for that, as is the contract manager for tracking how much has been invoiced against contract value. But you'd be surprised the number of times I've had accounts payable reach out to me going, I have an invoice that I can't pay because it's more than what's left on the contract. And then we're scrambling to find out how did it get overspent, checking with the contract manager and the vendor, both of whom are responsible for monitoring that this doesn't happen, and then determining if an amendment's required, is there ongoing work required, etc. Continuous professional development. Yes, that happens, but not on a daily basis, definitely not on a weekly basis. We try our best to keep up to date on things. There's newsletters, obviously, from the various professional associations and the Center for Advanced Procurement Studies in the US sends out periodic tips and emails. LinkedIn has a lot of great tips from various entities and procurement advisors and consultants that I'll see a post and then go check it out afterwards into further research. Risk management and compliance. Again, this is something you do throughout your procurement. And so these are all great things that we do, in the occupation, but it's not necessarily something you do on a daily basis. I hope this was helpful. Watch for future videos on how to structure your day so that you can manage your time more effectively. See you next time.